Hey, darlings. Wow, what a time to be alive. Relax, just a talk. Well, in light of the intense week that America and the world just had, um, let's start with a breath. Yeah, I think we could all use some decompressing. Cannot understate the value of decompressing. Jeez. Cheesy Pete's. I'm gonna start. Light might not be the word yet again. Um, I'm gonna start by talking about the pro Iran Lego diss track videos. Yeah, wow. Better not bring your kids, am I right? So, apparently, multiple accounts on social media, pro Iran state affiliated accounts, dropped some AI generated Lego styled music videos. And the music specifically of the videos I'm discussing, these specifically targeted Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth on a personal, political, and moral level. Now, I'm gonna drop links to the videos if you haven't seen them, or if you just want to see it again or hear it again. I personally am not a fan of AI generated art, including music, and but I gotta say, this is hard not to bop with it. Does that make me unpatriotic? I imagine a lot of Americans are kind of bopping with it, and it highlights something interesting. The fact that you might find yourself wanting to bop with this song. Uh, it highlights that it vibes with you. Something resonates with you. Uh, Likely because you don't agree with what's happening. Likely because these videos highlight the moral failures and the just lack of character of the individuals described, um, making mention of some of their worst crimes against fellow man, um, including all things Epstein related, um, doing the work of the devil, as they mention a lot, just highlighting that what they're doing is evil in the purest sense of the word. It's evil. To attack someone who didn't attack you is, I think, it's pretty across the board agreeably evil. And even Americans who don't support Iran. Let me pronounce the name correctly. Let's get it real. It's Iran. Even those Americans who don't support Iran as a state, as an Islamic state, or Iranian values, who may or may not have misconceptions about what the Iranian people support or represent, what their government supports or represent. And we're not there. It's really hard to say. There's a lot of filter of what we are told by our government and our schools about what Iran is and represents as a nation, as a people, and so forth. But even if you're an American who doesn't support Iran and the Iranian government, you definitely don't support hiding Epstein files. You definitely don't support uh, needless wars without permission, wars without explanation, wars without goals. You don't support that, right? Who does? Um, what's I found so interesting is that, dang, I can't help I find myself dancing along and I don't want to feel unpatriotic just because I'm dancing. Uh, I asked myself, am I rooting against America? And well, no. In the purest sense, no. America is not, in its heart, America is not a bully. In its heart, America is not an aggressor. In its heart, America is not the land of people who attack others just because, who flex strength just because, who threaten civilian lives, who attack schools just because. In its heart, I think that's across the board. It's bipartisan, it's unilateral. Humans simply don't, we don't roll like that. In the heart of hearts of every human, we don't roll like that. Uh, but that then poses another question. If the war isn't or wasn't, thank God we've had at least some semblance of a surrender just to finally end the madness. But if at the heart of it isn't the American people and American people's values, then what's at the heart of it? And if you stand against it, and you're not standing against America, you're standing for America as America, then what was that? Well, there are many theories. It was Israel, it was Israeli goals and ambitions, it was, uh, lining pockets, it was market manipulation. There's a lot to say of what it could be, but the vast majority of what transpired in the last few weeks, well, the first attacks by America may be for external reasons outside of America. The follow up, what followed thereafter, was almost, if not entirely, Donald's ego. Um, it, I think, I think most people recognize he's not someone who knows how to take a loss. He's not someone who responds well to the word no. Darling, I think all of us stand together in breathing a sigh of relief that the man backed down. But darn, those diss tracks hit. Boy, do they hit. And maybe this will allow us to take a beat um, and really review what America is, because that was not America. That was a man acting in the name of America, using the expenditures of America. He was, uh, wow. Yeah, I think it's better to laugh as much as you can about it. There's enough people crying, and they have good reason to cry. For those of us who, I pray that you've not lost a loved one. And there's a whole lot to be said about what is the actual casualty count in all of this debacle. If you've not lost a loved one because of this, I think it's better to laugh. It may be hard, it may be scary, you may feel like you never know what's going to happen. And to be fair, that's kind of always true. But at least we know that Donald will never try to embarrass himself like this again. That man will never, ever, ever put himself in a position to be told no so flagrantly, so publicly, so humiliatingly. Um, so I don't think we really have to worry about that happening again. He'll continue to bark his bark and try to talk a big talk, but I don't think that he's gonna go so far again. I will go more in depth into the topic um, of the conflict, the war that was needlessly started in Iran, without goals, without explanation, um, and without congressional approval. I'll go more in depth on that when I have a talk with my upcoming guest on Saturday. We're going live this Saturday, Saturday morning. I'll have a guest with me, and we'll be talking about not predominantly the Iran and Donald issue. Predominantly, we'll be talking about following up on last week's topic of the illness, what may be or may not be a mental illness affecting some of the ultra rich and the oligarchs. That's going to be a fun one. But we'll also pick up some of this Iran and global politics issues. But now, let's move on to today's main course. Last week, I ended with coming to terms, defining safe space. It seems self-explanatory. Today, I'm going to discuss MAGA and their safe space problem. So, MAGA as a movement, the values that MAGA preached or claimed at the beginning of Donald's first presidential campaign. Values centered around America first, supporting American businesses, supporting American family values, sort of, supporting what they might refer to as a common sense. Really, it was largely centered around the culture wars, as they call it, right? Anti-trans, anti-immigration, but really, I think more so the people felt it was pro immigration reform and immigration control, but what got publicized and criticized and demonized more from the anti-immigration lens. But all of that, we have a very good general idea of what MAGA was trying to stand for initially, right? And really at its heart, you might come for me in the comments, you might come for me in your mind, in a mental conversation. That's fine, come for me. That's do what you gotta do. But it is heart of hearts, MAGA's values, what they cared about for this country, what they wanted to see in this country, was largely what everyone wants to see. And we're going to put aside some of the racial overtones that I think are imposed upon MAGA. Personally, I believe these racial issues are imposed upon MAGA by more far extremists. But overall, the idea of a nation that supports its own businesses and families and communities, that encourages and facilitates its own trade and market growth, and the more conservative, conservative, the more traditional ideals, that I think is wanted across the board. I don't think there's any American who lives in America, who identifies with being American, who doesn't want freedom, who doesn't want support for business and market growth and these things, who doesn't want, communities to thrive. But that common ground was lost to the the loud and extreme voices that got amplified, right? You see, I think what happened to MAGA is very much what happens to a lot of the porn industry. I've heard this discussed before that when you put something in a corner, in the dark corner, because you don't want to hear it, you don't want to see it, you end up mm, kind of facilitating it to fester, and it becomes something darker, something um, edgy in all the worst ways. Um, so when America was over the last let's say just start from the millennium and the turn of the century and the end of the Bush era, America started pushing pretty hard, full steam ahead towards very liberal ideals, and that's not inherently a bad thing. However, it seemed that everyone had a safe space except for the people who became the MAGA supporters. Everyone had a safe space to say what they wanted to say. Everyone had a safe space to say, I feel discriminated against for X, Y, and Z, unless you felt you were being discriminated for being white or being a man. Come for me, that's all right. You can attack me, you can say what you need to say. But that was a reality felt by many people, that if I feel that America doesn't treat me fairly as a white person, or if I feel that America doesn't treat me fairly as a man, that society isn't treating me fair because of these things, as a Republican, as a conservative, as a Christian, etc. If I feel this, where do I go except to the other people who also feel the same way? There was no other safe space. Realistically, where was the safe space for these people besides amongst themselves? And that is bad. That's very bad because it causes those sentiments of feeling outcasted, of feeling othered. It causes it to fester and it becomes hatred. It becomes angst, anxiety, fear, anger. We don't want people to feel these feelings, especially not on a consistent basis, on a day-to-day basis, every time they're confronted with the reality of society. We don't want people to feel that way. Um, and because, in my opinion, because these people had no safe space, they built one in MAGA. And Donald took it and he ran with it, literally, as a campaign. He ran with it as a campaign and he started his slogan, which he stole from, I believe it was Ronald Reagan, who first used Make America Great Again. Never defining when this point was that it was great. So every one of these supporters had in their own minds their own vision of when America was great, what made America great. And there was no actual connective tissue between these people because the ideals were never fleshed out and fully described and put on paper, put on blast for the whole world to see. This is what we stand for. Instead, what was more verbally expressed and widely shared, retweeted, etc., was what they stood against. And it created an entire community of people standing against things, which means it was gestating and festering hate and anger and angst. And even if we believe that there's no reason, let's pretend some people may not feel it's pretending. It's okay. It can be real, it could be pretend, whatever. If there's no reason, let's say there's no reason for a white man in America to feel discriminated against. If he feels that way, invalidating his feelings does what? Does it help you? Does it help them see your point? No. And the irony is that the liberal movement was fighting for safe spaces, was fighting for the validation of people's feelings and experiences, except those. Except those. And man, did that blow up in everyone's face. That backfired so bad. Because here we are now, right? Oh man. Now, what would have happened if instead of rejecting these people's reality, these people's experiences, what they felt, what if we listened? You don't have to agree, just like you don't need people to agree with you. But what if we listened? Listened to their complaints. Gave them the whether it's genuine or not, just said, man, that sucks. And let them get it out. Would we be here now, breathing the sigh of relief that World War III is not commencing with nuclear arms? Would we be here now? Um, I'm gonna go ahead and say no, we wouldn't. We wouldn't be here right now. Um, and where we are right now may feel pretty sucky, but it's not the worst it could possibly be. And you can disagree with that, that's fine. But things can always be worse. And thank goodness, thank God, humans are extremely resilient and adaptive and creative. And even in the worst of times, we find a way. We recover. Just like the American government, its structure, and its commitment to the Constitution, its uh, safe rails and guards to protect the institution and the Constitution, they will all recover. That's what humans do. But I do think it's important for us to move forward, as so many people are leaving MAGA. Some people are saying it quietly. Some people are pretending they never were. Some people are screaming it from the rooftops because they just feel so betrayed. Some people are saying it was a cult. It is a cult. Whatever way they go about it, these people need to be reintegrated into our collective society. We need to be able to bring these people back in because there's been years of no contact. There's been years of families broken apart, friendships obliterated, just ended, of blocks and no communication. We need to be able to bring these people back in because how could we ever be the United States when we're divided, right? That don't make sense. I do feel that we we will find a way to reintegrate. We will find a way to reconnect. My hope is that it's not solely on the basis of being anti-Trump sycophant. It's not solely on the basis of being against something. That was the era of the MAGA movement to begin with. That was its error. To identify united solely on the basis of being against something. As many politicians running on the Democrat ticket now, so many people are saying in social media and whatnot, We don't need something to stand against. What we need is to stand for, to fight for. And I think that time is coming. And this will be an opportunity for us to really define what is America and what makes America great. What made America great before doesn't need to be what makes America great now. And I don't see how it ever could be because change, times have changed. We don't need the Constitution to change necessarily, at least not the principles it's founded upon. But the world that we live in has changed. And being great all depends on the challenge at hand, right? The challenge of the past is not the challenge of today, or at least the greatest challenges. There's still some residual work to be done in many areas that we've been working on since the American inception, since the Declaration, since the Revolution. But we can also look at how far we've come. We've got to look at what this world is today. And I'm proud of the distance that we've made. We do not look like our former selves. As an American, we don't look like our former selves. We look better. A little beaten right now because we got to really, we are in this relationship with this guy who's just not treating us right. But that aside, in all the ways where it really counts, as a people, we have come a long way and we're better than we have been. The challenges in front of us now on the global stage in this newly globalized world, it's something that the nation's forefathers could not have accounted for. They didn't account for. They didn't know. And that's fine. We're ready. We are ready and we will face it. We will evolve and rise to the occasion. But only together will we ever be able to actually make America great in the modern era. And we will. We will. So to close out on that note, I'm going to introduce coming to terms for next week. See if anyone can guess the topic. This episode's coming to terms with united. Allow me to define that for you. It seems self-explanatory, right? But I like to keep my terms defined so we're all on the same page. To be united is not to be the same. It is not to be homogeneous. It is not to be identical. To be united is a coming together with common ground, commonality on some major level. That's pretty much it. It's that simple. It does not take duplication, does not take cloning, does not take. No one needs to be cookie cut to be united. You don't even need to hold hands, okay? You don't need to know anyone on the other side or on your side, whatever, to be united. You can be united simply by deciding to work together on any common ground available. And I'm going to close out on that. And a reminder, this Saturday morning 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Going to be going live with a guest to discuss more in depth whether or not the ultra-rich oligarchs are indeed suffering from some kind of disease, an illness that is causing harm to themselves, or others. That's going to be interesting, and we'll probably also get into a bit more of the U.S.-Iran issue. But yeah, excited to have that discussion. Excited to have a guest on here for the first time. I hope that this podcast, I'm not on video. I'm scared of the camera. I have anxiety issues, specifically social anxiety. So I've tried. I'm gonna be really naked for a moment here. I've tried a number of times to get on camera and be, you know, present in that way. I'm just not ready. I've tried. I'm not ready. I'm scaredy cat. I can't do it. Maybe one day. But for now, you'll have to suffer the sound of my voice. I'm so sorry. I wish it was better. But but I'm here. I'm trying. I think the last video had some audio issues, and I hope this one sounds better. Tried to change up some things, make the quality better. Any topics or any critiques, any tips or tricks, anything anyone want to share, drop them in the comments. I'm open to listen. And I hope that you, my darling, are able to find a safe space here. That is actually my ultimate goal in this podcast. It's not just to say all the things stuck inside my head, but to encourage dialogue, to embrace us all, make people feel safe. I want everyone to feel safe here with me. I can't promise safety outside of this bubble, but at least here with me, I promise you, you are safe. Safe to be who you are, safe to think whatever it is you think. I'm not here to judge you. I don't get paid to judge you. Okay, so let's wrap up. Glad to have you here. This has been